and welcome to Crafts with Ash. My name's Ashley, and today I'm going to bring you 10 really fun and yummy looking s'mores tier tray ideas. Now today I'm going to be participating in a minis challenge hosted by Crafted by Corey. We're going to talk more about that in just a little bit, but first, if you haven't done so already, please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit that little notification bell so you are notified anytime I upload a new video. Then hit the drop down menu and click all so you're notified about all notifications. Then join me on Facebook and Instagram and let's get social. Give me a like and follow to see behind the scene content I know you don't want to miss. All right, let's get started with these 10 really easy and really fun s'mores themed tier tray ideas. So when I create a tier tray, I do make sure to follow the same color pattern the entire time. So I wanted to show you that these are the paints that I will be using today. I'm going to be using white Waverly chalk paint, the Apple Barrel chocolate bar paint, and Apple Barrel light mocha. You can get all of these at Walmart. For my first DIY, I'm going to be starting off with this palette sign, and this is very little, and I absolutely love using these because these are perfect for a tiered tray. So the first thing I did was pry off that little clip. There was also a bow on top, and I'm going to put that aside to use in another DIY in this video. So to start off, I am painting the top portion of this little palette sign with that light mocha Apple Barrel paint. I am making sure to get the tops and then go down on the side where it stops. I'm also going to paint the bottom palette as well. Now halfway through I did decide to go ahead and fill that hole, so I grabbed my spackle from the Dollar Tree, and then once that was dry I'm going to paint this middle section in my white Waverly chalk paint. And I am making sure to get the sides as well. Now, once that's dry, I'm going to take this chocolate bar paint and I'm just going to dab it along the top of the marshmallow part of our little s'more, and I'm going to hold it up and just let it drip naturally so it looks like melted chocolate. Look how yummy that looks. I do add more wherever I see fit, but I thought that this was so simple and so cute. I did consider putting words on this, but I honestly just thought it was a perfect little filler. And so if I had words, it would just kind of cover it. So next, to add that kind of like highlighting in the graham cracker part, I took this little chunky brush from the Dollar Tree and I just highlighted with that chocolate bar paint. For my next DIY, I'm going to take this piece of canvas that I got from one of those stretch canvas boards from the Dollar Tree, and I always keep the canvases because I know they are going to come in handy, and look at that, it did today. So I'm going to start off by cutting out little triangles. I'm going to make a banner. Now, this DIY I actually made once and then completely changed it, so you're going to see that I actually cut out way more triangles than I actually need, but you only actually need to cut out 5 if you're going to spell out what I spelled out, but you can spell out whatever you want. So after I cut out that first triangle, I folded my entire piece in half, and then I use that first triangle as a guide to cut out the next ones, and this is just a faster way to get 2 out of 1. So then you just unfold it and cut at the crease. So like I said, I cut out a ton more than I actually needed, but I ended up only using 5, which you'll see here in just a little bit. So after that was done, what I did was I lined up all of my banner pieces and I flipped them upside down. Then I'm going to take a piece of twine and I'm going to go 3 at a time, and I'm going to start gluing this twine at the top of my banner pieces. Now you can see that I'm using that little line there to line it all up. So once I get them all lined up, I will start gluing. I am putting these kind of point to point because my tiered tray is very small, which you'll see. So all of these DIYs today had to be very, very small. So now I have them all lined up. And then I'm just going to take a little dab of hot glue, put them on the top, put that on the top of my banner pieces, and then glue it. Now I am starting at the end of the banner, as you can see on the right side, and I am leaving some ribbon or twine at the end. So I am giving me some slack so I can tie this on my tiered tray. So like I said, I'm going to do 3 at a time. I'm going to make sure it's pushed down really well. And then I'm just going to keep going until all of my banner pieces are glued to my piece of twine. This is just the easiest way that I found to make a banner. I'm sure there's other ways or easier ways, but I've made a few banners in my day, so I don't know. This is just always the method I used, because otherwise you would have to, if you did it the other way, you would get glue all over your table or your surface. So this is just the easiest way that I found. So after I had all my pieces glued together, I went ahead and trimmed off my twine again, leaving some slack at the end. After that, I flipped it over. Now, this is where you're going to see things kind of change up a little bit. I did take my Waverly Antique Wax and I distressed each of my pieces. And now I'm going to spell out the word enjoy, putting 1 letter on each of my banner pieces. And that's it. Then I did want to distress these a little bit more, so I took my sanding sponge and I'm lightly sanding over the letters. And then I'm just going to take that Waverly chalk paint and just brush over it, because I didn't want these letters to be so bold. So then I'm just going to distress them a little bit more with that Waverly Antique Wax. I wanted these to kind of look like burnt marshmallows. I know it's not really the right shape, but just kind of that burnt campfire feel. Then to finish this off, I am going to put some Mod Podge over each of my banner pieces to help protect my stickers. And that's it. That was my banner. I thought that this was a cute little touch to my tiered tray because I can't fit a lot on it, so why not tie something in front of it? This came out so cute. For the next DIY, of course, we have to have a gnome. So you're probably wondering how I got all of these gnomes. Honestly, I collected a ton of them in the summer or the spring because I knew that I could use them on a ton of tiered trays in the future. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint his little hat in 2 coats of that light mocha apple barrel paint. Next, I'm going to paint his shirt in that chocolate bar paint. And again, I'm going to give this 2 coats of that. Now, I am taking my time here. I know it's sped up, but I really am. I'm taking my time. I'm doing all of the detail work. I want to make sure that this looks really cute. Then I'm going to take my white Waverly chalk paint and paint his pants with 2 coats of that. I really loved painting this. It was really fun to create this little guy, and I've put a gnome on all of my tiered trays. It's just so fun. So next, I'm going to take that light mocha paint and I'm going to paint his shoes again with 2 coats of that. Although, if some of the black showed through, I was okay with that because, again, it kind of gave it that bonfire-y, burnt look that I really love for this tiered tray. And like I said, I'm just taking my time, making sure I'm getting in all the grooves and everything. And then I accidentally dipped my brush into the chocolate bar paint. So now I have a combination of chocolate bar and that light mocha. And I actually kind of liked what that created. It was a little happy accident. So I'm just making sure that my shoes are covered and they are painted. And you can tell this is looking like a little s'more gnome already, but we are going to dress him up just a little bit. So after that was done, I took my white paint pen and I am just painting the belt around his little shirt. And I am making sure, like I said, I'm taking my time. I'm just tracing the belt, the back, and the little front with the buckle too. That was kind of hard to get into, but it is what it is. Next, I'm going to take my chocolate bar paint, that chunky brush, and I'm just going to distress his hat. And I am dry brushing over all of these. Then I took some white cotton twine and some regular twine and I twisted them together. And at first, I hot glued this around the bottom of his hat, which you'll see. I don't know why I glued this in such a wonky way, but see, I didn't even tie it. I just literally glued it in the back and then cut it off. But then you're going to see that I end up changing him up in just a little bit. So once I had all my glue secure, this little gnome was done for now, and it's time to give him something to hold. So I grabbed one of these skewers and I cut off a little piece where the pointy part is. And then I'm going to take these little colored beads, and these are the square ones. I took a smaller one, I stuck it on my skewer, and it fit perfectly. I didn't really need to hot glue it on there, but you're going to see in a minute that I do, just to give it extra support. And then I just simply went ahead and painted this in 2 coats of that white Waverly chalk paint. We're going to make it look like he's about to roast some marshmallows. So I wanted to make sure that my marshmallow was completely covered. So like I said, I gave it 2 coats. I thought this turned out super adorable. This has got to be probably my favorite thing on the entire tier tray, which you'll see. It's just so cute. And like I said, I've loved putting gnomes on all of my tiered trays. So right here, I'm just going to add some hot glue. Now, I do have a little bit of the point sticking up, so you do want to be careful. And then I took my Waverly Antique Wax and that chunky brush, and I'm just brushing it, and kind of dabbing it. I'm not even brushing it on the top and some of the sides of the marshmallow to make it look like it's burnt. And then I'm simply going to hot glue this at the bottom of his hand, and it really does look like he's holding it. And I did tack it down to his beard as well. But you do just want to hold it there until the glue sets up, and then I'm just adding some extra glue for some support. Then I'm going to distress him a little bit more, and I added some of that chocolate bar paint to the marshmallow. And then I do hit the shoes as well. I don't know if I show it, but I do actually put some on the shoes and then more on the hat. I just really wanted this to be really rustic and really cute. There we go, yeah. Now I'm hitting the shoes and a little bit more on the hat. Now this is when I decide I wanted to add something to his hat. So I cut off this little piece of brown burlap ribbon, and you can see it to the left-hand side at the bottom. I just cut off a little piece, and I'm going to put that now on the brim of his hat, and then I'm going to put the twine on top of it at the bottom of that burlap ribbon. And I did this because I just felt like it needed a little bit more, and it needed something dark up there, and I really love the detail that that added. I think it's super cute. So I'm just reinforcing it with some hot glue. Easy peasy. So fun. Look how cute he is. He's ready for a bonfire. Now I am going to trim up the burlap so it doesn't hang too much underneath the twine, but this little guy is done. Next up, I'm going to take this little flower circle thing. I got it in the floral section, and I'm going to give it a good coat of Waverly chalk paint, but first I am going to fill in that hole with my spackle. So once that spackle dries, I just lightly sand that off. And then I'm going to give this 2 coats of the Waverly chalk paint. Now, real quick, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to my YouTube channel. If you are new, I want to thank you so much for choosing to stop by today. And hey, stick around with me for a while by hitting that subscribe button. If you're returning, thank you so much for stopping back by, and I hope you love what you see. I also hope that you're a subscriber too. So after my little disc was dry, I'm just taking this ruler. I put it in the middle of my disc at first. I traced 2 lines, one on the top, one at the bottom of my ruler, and then moved it down with a pencil and then smudged it in with my finger to make it look like shiplap. Then I went ahead and distressed this, although you could probably skip this step because I do end up changing this. This DIY here, it kind of evolved. So you're going to see how I change it up. Next, I took 2 more skewers and then these big block pieces, and this came off of that brain teaser game, and they had these natural color beads and then the dark brown beads. So I just took them off, and I'm hot gluing 1 on each skewer. So I am lining it up. I'm holding it next to each other to make sure that the beads are even with each other. And I am reinforcing it with some hot glue. Then once I have them positioned exactly where I want them, I am going to give each of these 2 coats of the Waverly chalk paint in white. I'm going to make sure that these are completely covered because I really want these to be nice and white marshmallows. Well, that is until I burn them by distressing them. So I am getting all of the sides, even the top and the bottom, even though you're not really going to see the bottom, but I'm going to paint that anyways. So then once those are dry, of course, I'm going to take my Waverly Antique Wax and that little chunky brush, and look at that. Oh, I just love that. Now, I did go back and forth between using the Waverly Antique Wax and the Chocolate Bar paint, and I got to say, I like the look of the Antique Wax. It's just like a darker brown, and it's more of the brown color that I was looking for. So I just dabbed this all over my marshmallows to give them that burnt look. You're going to have to let me know in the comments, do you like burnt marshmallows or just a little bit melty? Let me know what kind of marshmallows you like on your s'mores. After that, I took my disc and then I took this little piece of burlap and I'm just tracing a circle around it and cutting it out. Now, my goal here is to make the circle my burlap circle a little bit smaller than the disc. So what I'm doing is just kind of cutting it around as I see fit. So I'm just kind of putting it down, testing it, and then cutting it wherever I see that it needs to be a little smaller. So I'm just cutting off my end pieces here. I didn't want a ton to show through around the edges, but just a little bit peeking through. And this is why I said you could probably skip that step. In fact, I would honestly just paint that disc the chocolate brown paint or chocolate bar paint, and you'll see why in a minute. So after I went ahead and got that cut down, I did hot glue it to the middle of my little disc, and now it's time to hot glue my little marshmallows on. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of measuring where I need to cut my stick down. And I'm going to cut them both at the same size. So I'm going to line them up with each other, cut them down, and then I'm going to hot glue them in an X pattern so they are crossed over each other. Now, using my miter shears, that really helped cut my dowel rods. Those are going to be linked in the description box below. They come in handy so many times. I really love using them. So if you want a pair, check my description box below and pick you up one of those. So next, after I sanded down the edges, I am going to go ahead and hot glue on my marshmallows down. And I am putting a generous amount of hot glue on the marshmallow itself and then under the stick. And I am holding it there until the glue sets up. I saw this idea on Pinterest and I thought it was adorable. So I thought that I would give it a try myself. I did think that this came out super cute. This is not what I envisioned in my head going into it, but the end result was really, really fun. So now I'm just kind of holding it down, waiting for my glue to set and trimming off some edges and just making it look how I want it to look. And the marshmallow bead did pull up the burlap a little bit, so I'm just reinforcing the burlap down with some hot glue. And then see, you have to put a generous amount of hot glue at that stick at the bottom where it's crossing over the other one because it does pull up. So next, I did feel like this just needed a little bit more. So I'm painting the sides of around the edges of my little disc in that chocolate bar paint. And then you're going to see that I actually paint the front of this as well. So all that white going around, see now I'm going on the front too. I just felt like it needed a little bit more detail. And I needed it to be a little darker. And then you're going to see that I kind of blot it on the burlap as well. And that's why I say just paint the bottom of this in the chocolate bar paint. In hindsight, that's what I would have done. That way these sticks and these marshmallows would have popped even more from this little disc. I do love how this came out. So it wasn't a big deal, but you know, hindsight is 20/20. So now I'm just painting around the perimeter of my little disc. I am trying to make the burlap a little darker. And then that bow that I took off of that little palette sign in the first DIY, I'm just adding a little bit of brown to it just to make it a little darker and highlight it. And then I'm just going to simply hot glue it to where the two skewers meet in the middle. Now I do want this to stand, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hot glue two of my little wooden blocks that I got from the Dollar Tree right onto the back. Now when you do this, you do want to lean it backwards so you can see where you need to glue it. Look how cute. All right, so like I said, this is part of a challenge hosted by Crafted by Corey. And what we had to do was create at least 3 minis or tier tray DIYs. And it is an open playlist, which means anybody could do this and anybody can join. So I'm going to have the playlist listed in my description box below. There's going to be so many creators and YouTubers participating in this. So definitely after you watch my video, check out Crafted by Corey and the playlist down below. All right, for my next DIY, we are going to make a cute little garland. Now, this garland is not going to be long because, like I said, my tier tray is very small. So the first thing I'm going to do is put 3 of these little brain teaser pieces on a skewer, and I'm going to paint them all 3 with the Waverly chalk paint in white, and I did do like 2 or 3 coats. Next, I'm going to take 6 16mm beads, and I got these on Amazon. Again, the link is in the description box below if you'd like to get some. And I'm going to paint 3 of them in that chocolate bar paint, and then 3 of them in that light mocha paint. So I did see that it is easier to paint them on a skewer. So what I did was just scooted down the last 3 so that way this doesn't touch the light mocha, but you can see it's pretty easy to do. And then I'm going to dry those and then flip over my beads and then paint the light mocha ones. So that way I didn't waste so many skewers with all these beads. So I'm just going to make sure, I know it's kind of hard to tell here, but I am painting all of them. One did pop off my skewer, that's why I had to go get it. Oh, the things that happen behind the scenes. All right, so after all my beads were dry, I took a piece of twine. I did add some hot glue and kind of twist it to make it a nice point at the end. And then I'm going to add my beads. So I started off with a light mocha, white, chocolate bar, light mocha, white, chocolate bar, and I just did that. Now, I did realize that I needed to paint 2 more of my little white, my square beads, my blocks. So that's what I just did right now. So I'm going to add that, and then I'm just going to continue that pattern until all of my beads are used. Now, for some reason, this twine, you can see, it is so thick here on the end. I actually had to kind of scrape a lot of it off. You can see the left side that I'm working with right here and compare it to the other side of the twine. It is so much thicker. So that's not good when you have to string beads on it. But I did just take my skewer and just kind of push my string through to help it, to help me get the other end. So there we go. I'm just going to push it through and then pull it. And then that completed the beaded part of this garland. So next, what I'm going to do, of course, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to make these marshmallows look burnt. So I'm going to take my little chunky brush. I'm going to distress all of my marshmallows. And I did distress all of the sides because no matter how this is laying on my tiered tray, each of my marshmallows will look burnt. So I did go ahead and distress all of it. And again, I'm using my Waverly Antique Wax because I just feel like that coloring is so much better than the chocolate bar. So then after that, it's time to make a tassel. I'm just going to take my twine and I'm going to wrap it several times around 4 of my fingers. I'm going to pull it off, and then I'm going to take one end of my garland and put it through my loop and then tie it on. And I've made several tassels, so if you want a slower version of this, you can check out some of my other tiered tray videos. So after I had that all tied on, and I did double knot it, I took that little piece of twine that I cut off, and I am tying it to the top of my little tassel to make it actually look like a tassel. There we go. And I am going to double knot that as well. And then I'm going to cut the bottom of my loop to look like individual strands. Then I'm just going to go through and cut off any of my random pieces of twine. And I do actually use hot glue to tack these down because I just want to make sure that it's secure. Now, I do want to make sure that my beads are flush up against my tassel. So what I do is I add some hot glue to the top of my tassel, and then I push my beads all the way down. So I'm going to add some glue, and then you can see I'm pushing my beads down, starting at the one on the other end. That way they are all tightly together. Then I'm going to give this a haircut, make sure all my strands are even at the end, And that side is done for now. For the other side, I'm going to take this little wood chip, and I got this in a pack from Hobby Lobby in the spring. And I'm going to kind of dry brush that chocolate bar paint around the sides of that little wood chip because I just wanted it to be a little darker. And then I'm going to take that light mocha and I'm going to paint the inside of this because these colors, or the natural color of this wood chip, didn't really match what I was doing. So I am going to paint the inside of this with my light mocha paint. And I am making sure not to get any on my sides. Then once that's dry, and it is dry, I know it doesn't look like it, but I'm taking my chalkboard paint that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to make kind of like a very messy circle. You can see that I'm kind of doing wavy lines right in the middle. Now you want to make sure that your paint is smooth. You can see I'm going to take some off because I'm going to write on it. But after that was done, I went ahead and dried it. And then by taking my white paint pen, I'm going to write the word yum. I thought that that would be really cute. There were a lot of sayings I saw when I was kind of hunting Pinterest to get some inspiration. I saw love you s'more, smile s'more, give me s'more. There were a lot of really cute like sayings, but like I said, I couldn't really make anything too big because my tier tray is very small. So I'm just going to go over this one more time, and then just to add a little bit more detail to my wording, I am going to add some lines. Sorry, my dog's barking. And then I'm going to add the stitching around the black part. Once that's done, I'm going to tie a knot, or actually 2 knots, at the end of this side of the garland. That way it keeps my bead in place and it doesn't move. And I am going to tack that down with some hot glue, and then I'm simply just going to hot glue this piece onto my twine. So I'm just going to add a healthy amount of hot glue, and then to give it extra support, I am going to put a piece of duct tape on top of it too. I love how this little beaded garland came out, and it was perfect, the perfect size for my little small tiered tray. So I did go ahead and add a little twine bow to the top of my little wooden disc, and because I just thought it just needed a bow. When in doubt, add a bow, right? So I'm just trimming it down, and then I'm going to hot glue it to the top, and I thought that added a great little detail. And we're almost done with this little garland, but then I just really decided that it needed something else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the other side of the tassel and some of that white cotton twine, and I'm going to wrap a piece around that middle part of my tassel. So you're going to see I'm cutting it off, and then I'm just going to wrap and wrap and wrap, and then I'm going to tie it off and then tack it down with some hot glue. This tassel was so easy to make, and it was so much fun. I really did have a lot of fun making this entire tier tray just because I absolutely love s'mores. Let me know if you love s'mores too. Ugh, I just love them. And the more burnt, the better, and the meltier, the better. The messier. I just love them. I can't wait till you see this whole tier tray put together at the end. For my next DIY, I'm going to take one of these mini dice that I got out of that pack that I just showed, and I'm going to cut it in half, or I don't know what I was thinking. I wanted to cut it in half. Clearly you can see it's not, but I'm just going to cut it down the middle. Now, at first I did start off with this big knife, but for some reason it just was not working. So in a little bit, you're going to see that I moved to the smaller knife, the one that you can get in the packs from Dollar Tree, and it was easier for me to cut one end and then for me to turn around and cut down the other end. So I think when you're trying to cut the whole thing, that doesn't work, but if you do it piece by piece, it's better. Next, I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint in white, and I'm going to give each of these little dice 2 coats of that. While those were drying, I took a plank out of that pack right there, and I'm going to use another dice just to measure how big I need to cut down these pieces. Now, I want these pieces to look like graham crackers, so I am making them a little bigger than the actual dice themselves. Then I'm just going to take that big knife right here. I'm going to score it a few times and until it allows me to bend it back and forth so it snaps. And this was really easy to do. So these packs of wooden planks, you guys, I have been looking for them for probably a year. I mean, they've been out for a really long time. I saw all these YouTubers get them and be able to use them. I have not found them. And then the other day, finally, they had the packs of these squares and then the long rectangles, and I picked up a bunch of each because that was the first time I'd ever seen those in my Dollar Tree. And when I tell you how excited I was, I squealed in the aisle because these so many times could have come in handy for me, and I just never could find them. So I'm so happy I got my hands on these. So after I was able to break off that one part, I did take my scissors and I cut it down, and now I'm really going to sand these down. You don't want them to have any sharp edges or anything. And then I also wanted to round out my corners to make them look a little bit more like graham crackers. Then I'm going to take both of my pieces and I'm going to paint the top and the sides with that light mocha paint. So I did make sure to, now I didn't bother painting the bottom because you're not going to see it, but I did make sure to cover the edges, the sides of each one of these as well. This is your friendly reminder that if you're loving what you see today, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Not only does it really help my channel to grow, but it tells YouTube that you want to see more of my content. So please hit that like button. It would be greatly appreciated. Next, I'm going to take my Waverly Antique Wax, and this time I'm just going to dab, dab, dab over the graham crackers just to give it that dimension and kind of make it those circles that are in graham crackers, you know? So next, I'm going to take my dried marshmallow, and I'm going to hot glue it. Now, here's the thing. I hot glued it upside down, and I'm going to tell you in a second how to fix it. But after it was hot glued down, I took my chocolate bar paint, and I just squirted it all over the top and then just let it drip naturally. And then I'm going to hot glue on the top. Now, after I hot glued down is when I realized that I hot glued it upside down. So what you want to do is hot glue your marshmallow on the painted part of that plaque of the wood. So here's what I'm going to do. I just took off the top, which, well, right now I'm a little confused and I'm like, what did I do? How do I fix this? So then I decided to take off the top graham cracker. Then I'm just going to wipe it down with a paper towel just to go ahead and get all that paint off of there. And then I'm going to hot glue it. So now it's hot glued on the part that I painted. So that was and now I switched it around. So yeah, I hope that made sense. I know that kind of went fast. All right, so next up, I'm going to take this little glass piece that I got from, or I guess it's ceramic, from the Dollar Tree, and I thought that this was a perfect marshmallow. So the first thing I did was scrape off that little tag with my hairdryer and my scraper. Now the part that I accidentally cut out was I did give this a coat of Waverly chalk paint in white, and now by taking my black paint marker, I'm drawing on my little face, and then by using my ballet slipper paint, I'm giving her some rosy cheeks. After that, I put her on top of a plate and then just went to town with my chocolate bar paint. And I just let it drip naturally. Now, I did not want it to drip over her face, so I was kind of careful of where I put the long drips. And look how perfect that looked. Like, it dripped perfectly, so it doesn't cover her face at all. So it stopped dripping, I laid it on its side, and then I just added just a few more drips, and I felt like I was giving her bangs, and I did let this dry completely overnight. Then I'm going to take my Waverly Antique Wax, and I'm just going to distress the bottoms. I'm really paying attention to the bottom corners, and a little over her face. Like I said, I let it dry overnight. So the next day I came back. I'm making a cute little bow with this gold and burlap ribbon. and it's a very simple bow. So I made it like look like one of those awareness ribbons. I scrunched it in the middle and then tied it around with a piece of twine. And you want to make sure to tie it really, really tight. And then I'm just going to simply cut off the ends and then hot glue this to the side of her little head. Oh, I thought that when I saw this sign at the Dollar Tree, I was like, oh my gosh, that looks like a marshmallow. That's kind of what inspired my whole s'mores theme today, because I was like, I gotta make a marshmallow. And then I decided, hey, this would be perfect for my fall DIYs or my fall tray. So there we go. And now my little marshmallow girl is complete. All right, next up, I gotta add some snacks. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I am gonna paint one of these little brain teaser pieces, and I'm gonna paint it in 2 coats of the white chalk paint. And then off to the side, you can see, or right there, you can see that I have this jar, and I did get it from the Dollar Tree. But before I glue my little piece on, I am going to go ahead and cover in the holes, and I'm just using my spackling. Then I realized that I really liked the texture that gave it. Kind of made it look a little fluffy like a marshmallow would be. So I went around all my sides. Then, of course, got to have a burnt marshmallow, so I just distressed the top of my little bead. And then by using my super glue and my hot glue, I'm going to glue that to the middle of my lid. And I just thought that this added such a cute little detail. But you know what comes next? Well, I'm going to reinforce it first with some hot glue. So I'm just putting a bead of hot glue around the bottom. And then I'm going to take my chocolate bar paint and I'm going to squeeze it all over the top and just let it fall naturally. Look how cute. And again, I did let this dry overnight. Now to the lid of my jar, I am just going to wrap twine all the way around my lid. It was easy. You can see that I'm using hot glue a little bit here and there, not really not on the whole thing, but just kind of here and there as I see fit, and then I just wrap and wrap and wrap until I get the whole thing covered with twine. I thought that this made such a cute little addition to my tiered tray, but of course, if you have a snack jar, you got to add to it. So what I did was I took a bowl, I added some Golden Graham cereal, some chocolate chips, and some mini marshmallows. I'm mixing it up, and then I'm going to go ahead and simply put it in that bowl. Now, the one thing I will suggest is I sent my husband to Walmart to go get these things for me, and he picked up mini chocolate chips. I would recommend getting regular size because as you're about to see, they all went to the bottom because they're so little, or once I shake it. So you want to get regular size chocolate chips, but you do want mini marshmallows. So I realized that what I made didn't fill my jar completely, so I'm just adding to it. And let me say this has been a hit on my little s'mores tiered tray. So I'm just giving it a shake, mixing it all up, and look how yummy that looks. All right, for my next DIY, I needed something small to go on to that little s'more that we made because I'm going to use those as risers. So I'm going to make a little sign. So I'm taking a regular size craft stick and I'm cutting out 3 pieces. So they're just really small. And then that mini craft stick, I cut the curved part off, and that's going to be used as my post. So once I had all 3 of my pieces cut down, I am going to take my scissors and kind of make the ends of my wood kind of like, I don't know, like rigid, I guess, like just not straight. I'm just making it look like these were just pieces of wood broken off. Then I decided they were a little too wide, so I did go ahead and cut it in the middle. And now I'm going to cut the ends of this one as well. There we go. And then I'm going to cut that third one. I'm going to do the same thing, cut it in the middle, and then cut the ends. Kind of just make them messy, I guess, or like, I don't know, rigid. I'm sorry if you hear me sniffling. I am not sick, just my allergies are terrible today. I'm so sorry. So next I'm going to take my Waverly Antique Wax and a baby wipe, and I'm just going to rub the wax all over the post of my little sign, and that's that mini craft stick. And then I'm going to take one of my little pieces, I'm going to paint that in light mocha. I'm going to paint the second one in the white Waverly chalk paint and the third one in the chocolate bar paint. So this kind of looks like a graham cracker. After they were dry, I'm going to hot glue my light mocha one to the top, and I am leaving a little bit of that post up top so you can see. Then I'm going to hot glue my white one and then my brown one, and you can see I'm kind of making them angled, not so straight across. Then by using a black marker, I'm going to write s'mores here and then 25 cents. Now, I know you can't really see the 25 cents, but I have a love-hate relationship with my white paint marker, which you'll see in a second. So to make this baby stand, I'm going to take a tumbling tower block, and I'm going to kind of sandwich my post in, although you're going to see that I end up taking the back one off. So here I have them sandwiched. And then next I'm going to take that baby wipe and that antique wax, and I'm going to faux stain my little tumbling tower blocks. And here's where that back one broke off. And then once I realized it could stand on its own without the back one, I just left it off. There we go. See, I'm like, oh, okay then. That's what I'll do. So I just finished faux staining this. Then to add a little touch to the bottom, I took this little mini, oh, nope, I lied. This is what I did first. See, I have a love-hate relationship with this pen. So it either doesn't work or it all comes out at once. So I need to get me some better paint pens. But whatever. So next I took this mini glass jar. I hot glued it to my stand on the one side of it. And then I took some tops of skewers and I'm going to cut them down and put them. Although after that I was like, oh my gosh, toothpicks. You can just put toothpicks and it could be like a legit toothpick holder on your tiered tray. So that's what I ended up doing at the end. After I took all the pictures and everything, because I thought of it after the fact, of course. But that would be a really cute idea too. But I just thought that this was just a cute little mini DIY to throw somewhere on my tiered tray. So next up, this last DIY, I'm going to take 3 tumbling tower blocks. You're going to see I start off with 2, but I do add a third, and I'm going to hot glue them end to end, and then I'm going to give them a really good coat of white Waverly chalk paint. And I am going to make sure to paint all of the sides, and then I'm going to distress it with my Waverly antique wax and my chunky brush, and I'm just going to rub it all over. And I am paying attention to the corners. I want those to be a little darker. And then I just kind of lighten it up and smear it together with my finger. Next, I'm going to take these black letters that I got from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to spell out s'mores bar. But you're going to see right here, I realize I need a third. So again, I grab a third. I'm going to paint that in the white Waverly chalk paint, distress it. And then after that dries, I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of my letters. So I thought that this was kind of funny. Now I did run out of an E, like I didn't have any more E's, so I had to take an F. Then I cut off a little part of a Z and added the bottom of my E. But I just kind of thought this was funny because it's like a bar, like this actual Jenga thing is like a bar, it made a bar, and then this says s'mores bar. I don't know. And then after I had all my letters on, I realized, duh, I didn't even start it in the middle. So I had to go through and move all of my pieces, all of my letters, so it was more proportional and they were in the middle. So here we go. And of course my S ripped, so I had to replace it with a new one. Now I'm going to take my sanding sponge and I'm lightly going to sand over my letters so they're not so bold and they look a little bit more rustic or worn. And then I do brush over it a little bit with that white paint as well, just to give it a little bit more distressing. And the brown paint too. And now I'm going to hit the top really, really well because I just felt like it needed to be darker around the edges and the sides. So I'm just going to do that. There we go. Now it's really dark, and that's what I was going for. So I just felt like that looked so much better. Now I'm going to take that white paint, brush over, and I am going to use my finger to kind of smear it a little bit. There we go. Then I'm going to add Mod Podge to protect all my letters. To the ends of my little bar, I'm going to take this twine, I'm going to wrap it around, I believe, 2 times, I think, and then I'm going to hot glue it in the back. Now, here's the thing. I do cut off the excess twine, but you're going to want to leave the excess twine or some, like, a tail, a tail on there because I ended up hanging this onto the handle of my tiered tray. So if you're going to hang it, you're going to need to leave some twine on there. Now I added twine to do that, so it's not a big deal if you don't, but I really thought that added just what it needed. And then I realized that some of my one block was coming off, so I just went ahead and re-glued it. Definitely you could use wood glue for that too. All right, so now that this is complete, it is finally time for my final reveal. Let me know, what do you think? How cute did all of these s'mores DIYs come out? I absolutely love this tiered tray. Nothing screams fall more than these colors and the marshmallows and little golden grahams and chocolate chips. It makes me want to have a s'more. You're going to have to let me know down in the comments if you have a favorite DIY out of this video today, and if you love s'mores, or if you're planning on making a tiered tray like this one. I want to thank Crafted by Corey for hosting this awesome minis challenge today. Please don't forget to visit the description box below so you can check out the playlist and also the link to Crafted by Corey's channel. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that you got a ton of inspiration and fun ideas to create something amazing. If you haven't done so already, please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, then hit that little notification bell so you can get notified anytime I upload a new video. Also, a thumbs up is always appreciated. Well, until I see you again, I'll craft with you soon. Bye!